Right.
Shall we get into big Dabbleverse news?
Yeah, definitely.
This is cool. We don't get a chance to talk about Rich Voss too often, the legend. But this was fun. So I actually I chose not to talk about this last week because I heard Carl talk about it earlier in the week. By the time we got to it, it was old news. So I was like, yeah, we don't need to update people on the Stuttering John Rich Voss beef. But it's been taken to a level now that I just like it. It's fun, It's fun to look into because you realize how big this Dabbleverse is expanding. I say, I'm hat in hand yet again for the second time on this program. I say again, I was wrong in October, November, whenever I retired from talking about Stuttering John. I said this, this horse is on its last leg. This ship is sputtering out.
I believed you the whole time.
Well, I was wrong. Hard to believe. But, for some reason, the fascination around this man only grows. Does it get tired at times? Absolutely. Does it get exhausting when John just repeats himself and every day it's like Shuley this and Barbara Levy that and Kevin Brennan this? It can. Yes. Yeah. Lady K is gay, John. We got it. We understand.
We all know that.
We all, believe me. How do you think I got on WATS? We all know.
Oh, speaking of, by the way, real quick, I finally heard him talking about the Tom Myers interview, and boy, were you right.
Yeah, I think he thinks that I am ruining the joke or something. But my thing with Tom Myers is the guy's only ever been shit on the internet.
Right.
Nick Mullen mentioned him out of nowhere and was just like, listen to this fucking idiot. And for years, people were like, can you believe how terrible this guy is? Is it crazy that for an hour, and by the way, I did call him the worst comedian in the world in that interview.
Sure did.
But is it crazy that for an hour we were like, hey, Tom, I'll talk to you like a human being? Someone will communicate with you and let you speak like you're a fucking person. I don't think it's that crazy.
Nah, it's not crazy at all.
But yeah, it like I said, I was dead wrong because there's something about this Stuttering John guy that just keeps drawing people back. And every once in a while, there's a new thing, and that's what Rich Voss hit on. So he mentioned this on Jim and Sam the other day, and we learned very quickly that Rich Voss isn't the only person in that room interested in the Dabbleverse.
How do you feel?
Do you see the drama on Twitter I created with all these podcast people?
What'd you do?
No.
I love it. Already, I love it.
Yeah. I never go on Twitter. Who does anymore? Basically, once they took the blue checks away, you just go on Instagram.
Nice.
So I saw a tweet where it said, oh, fuck. Why can't I think of his name? Okay. Who's the guy that Florentina? Oh, I can't.
Don Jameson.
No, a comic.
Sorry.
Chaz, whatever. I can't think of
Chad. Chad Zumock. Chad Zumock.
Yeah.
Chad Zumock. I did hear about that. Oh, I forgot.
Sam loves him.
I didn't hear this.
Hold on real quick. Sam, for whatever reason, I always thought when he became a host, he was going to be a major shit stir because that's what he was great at when he was an intern and a producer for Opie and Anthony. And for whatever reason, he's chosen not to do that. It seems like he doesn't like that. I don't know why. Maybe he's just gotten older. Or he's a family man now. I don't know. But he's drifted away from that a little. But in that response, you hear he's still got that in him. He loves, as much as he tries to get away from his roots, he loves being a gossipy little shit.
He got so excited at the name Chad Zumock.
Yes. because Norton isn't really I think Carl Norton's done Carl's show, but he's not invested in it in that way. Sam, I think, genuinely is. I think Sam is probably on Reddit a fair amount.
Him and Big J text about it, I bet.
It dawned on me Big J and Sam could have a Dabbleverse show.
That'd be awesome.
Or they could be on Point Dabble Point every week. That's what's bizarre. Sam and Jay should just start their own Stuttering John show together.
I would love that.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm excited. Yeah.
I didn't hear this.
Oh, yeah. yeah. I forgot you entered the Dabbleverse.
What's the Dabbleverse exactly?
Rich Voss is in the Dabbleverse. Mike, how happy are you?
So wait.
The Dabbleverse.
And I've heard the
I
term.
hear the name Chad Zumach, and I get very excited.
So
There's like an underground. We can't talk to everybody. You know what I mean? Like we can't go out in the world. Like today, I'm going to meet up with friends, and I can't say the name Chad Zumach without just getting blank stares back. You know?
Yep.
It's a select group of people, but there are numbers out there. The people exist out there. So when you find someone that you can be like, "Hey, did you hear about fucking Kevin Brennan going off the rails?" There's an excitement in the air, you know, where it's like, "Oh, someone that gets this obsession I have." That it feels like I can't relate to so many people with it, but when you find someone like that, it's a bond that's forged for life. I think, you know.
Yeah. But here's Sam's description of the Dabbleverse.
Okay, good.
Excited.
So the Dabbleverse is remember Stuttering John?
Sure. Oh,
Howard Stern
Yes.
show.
Yeah.
So Stuttering John has created. There's a universe that is centered all around
People that hate him.
Stuttering John and making fun of Stuttering
so
John
happy.
and like monitoring his show and watching it all the time. And it's called the Dabbleverse. And there's a group of people that like it's like the Bravo-verse. Like they follow the Dabbleverse, like it's their Real Housewives or whatever. Like the it goes so deep.
Why don't
There's,
they like John?
there's new stuff every day. Like they make videos of him blowing snot out of his nose and stuff. It's
So,
but some people do like John. I mean, there's some
Yeah.
people that are pro.
Well,
It's a perfect description, by the way.
it's actually at first, like comparing it to Bravo, it didn't hit me right. And then the more I thought about it, I was like, you know what, that is the best way to describe it. Because we get comments sometimes, it's like, oh, you're just grown men shitting on another grown man. It's like it's our version of reality TV. These are public
I was
figures.
gonna say,
We're not
it's a
looking
train-
through. We're not looking through John's window and being like, he drooled.
It's one of those train wreck shows.
Exactly. Yeah, it is. It's our version of a reality show. I have no interest in Love is Blind or Love on the Spectrum or any of those shows. Those they don't grab me the same way, but I understand why they do grab people. It's like I said about Surviving Barstool, where I thought I wasn't a reality fan, but like when I was invested in the characters, I was like, oh, this is very interesting and very well done.
May I suggest you watch Prison Brides? It's unbelievable.
Well, see, Craig has his. Craig's one of the gals that gets into it that way. But yeah, that's a great description by Sam, where it is our reality show, and for whatever reason, as much like I just said, I know it's toxic and it's bad for me, like cigarettes or sugar.
Yep.
But I can't stop. I can tell myself on New Year's, hey, I'm going Stuttering John free this year. But undoubtedly by February, if not sooner, I'm hooked again, baby. You know?
I still predicted that you guys will do a show together.
Me and John?
Yeah.
I don't think so at this point. But here's the only way I could have done it is if I was a secret agent or something, a double agent.
Actually, let me read. There's a few super chats here. Let me just read them because one is in relation to what I just said.
Okay.
So the first one was Dominic, $2 before we even started. Just
Yes.
said, good to see Craig Fed posting already this morning.
Yeah, I always like when Craig is he's got his finger on the pulse of what we're talking about today.
I'm a man of many hats.
I suppose that's true.
Political shows and all that.
Yeah. Well, the audience is just happy when you were wearing a hat of any kind.
That's right. I got one on right now. This isn't a super chat, but I start it because it is important. We were talking about it earlier.
Yes.
Electra says Gearbox is no more, not tomorrow, not today.
Oh no, never. Hacker told me maybe once in a while, but who knows? You can convince that guy. He's a big softy. He'll be back.
Honestly, by tomorrow he might be like, I'm going to do this every day. So like,
Every day, yeah. He does a Quincy review on Tuesdays, and
that would actually be awesome.
Yeah.
Carl's Frosted Tips, $2. Mike, Stuttering John called you out on X. Are you going to take that?
he did.
I'm going to look into that right now. Well,
Yeah.
I thought you might have known what that was. That's why.
No. So, yeah, see if that's true. If someone send it if you can, so we
Someone
can.
send it to me on Twitter or something if I can't
Yeah.
find it.
If that's true, I don't know what he could be talking about.
Like, oh, you can't see or something.
Yeah, we haven't talked about him in a couple weeks, right? What? Although he's always 3 weeks behind, so who knows?
True. Let's finish out Sam's description here.
Oh yeah. Oh, here's the one area I'll push back on Sam.
Mhm.
Sam kind of tried to be political because I don't think he wants that Stuttering John smoke, you
I
know?
don't think so.
Because he immediately was like, "Oh, but some people like John." I mean, Sam, maybe you're right, and I'm just on the wrong websites, but I can't find them. The closest you'll find is people not that like John, but hate Shuley or Carl or something.
Right.
But I've yet to find anyone that like. No, actually, I think John is a really an astute political mind. I think he's talented.
So I'm a day. I want a day back, and I don't see it. So I think this might have just been getting us to do exactly what we're doing right now. It's like where? Where is it?
You got us.
Nailed me.
But some people do like John. I mean, there's some people that are pro John. There's some people that are anti John.
Yeah, I love John.
So they
Careful.
Yeah, 50-50.
I probably love half the people who hate him too.
Yeah, Jim Norton realized like, oh, he's probably talking about Anthony and Carl. Like, I like these guys too.
Now they're gonna get into what happened here.
Okay, yeah. So for anyone that doesn't know, like I realize most of you guys watching right now are probably briefed on this, but for anyone that doesn't know, Voss is going to explain exactly what happened because I thought maybe we were missing something. There's an exchange on Twitter between Zumach, John, and Voss, and I thought we had to be missing something because why would Voss jump in here? But he puts it all into perspective for us.
Chad Zumach says, I'm doing this show. Stut Joe says, come on my show to promote it. Chad Zumach says, when? Rich Voss just out of nowhere just pops out of a bush and replies, I thought you two were enemies. I can't keep up with the middle drama. Just calling them both middles.
So then John goes.
Hold on. Whoa. Hold on. A couple things there. First of all, you can tell how deep Sam is that he refers to him as Stut Joe.
I know.
That's not from Stern, The Tonight Show. I've never heard him called that outside of this world. You can tell Sam is in.
Is that how he call? Is that what he calls himself on Twitter? Nope. No, it's not.
No. That's a Dabbleverse thing, baby.
He's in.
Yeah, Sam is very in. Yeah, as he says, Rich Voss from the top rope, as the kids say. Just coming out of nowhere. But if you know Voss, I've listened to Voss for many, many years. And that is a standard, like, if Patrice and Louis C.K. were on Opie and Anthony, Voss would walk in and say, I'm giving you guys relief from these middlers. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I've heard him say that to fucking Colin Quinn and Norton. Like, that's a very common Vossism. And you know who understands that is not just people that listen to Opie and Anthony, but also comedians, typically. And even say what you want about Chad Zumach. You can criticize Chad for a lot of things. Even Chad understood, like, oh, that's Voss being funny.
Right.
But someone, I don't want to spoil it, someone doesn't take it with the grace that I just laid out.
So then John goes nuts, right? He's like, fuck you. And he's like, he's putting up pictures of where he had. I didn't even know it was a
Look
comic.
at that. Okay, so Stuttering John.
Well, that to me is wild. And I believe Voss fully. But it's crazy to me. Like, John pontificates about all the respect that he has in this business. And for whatever reason, he always says this. He says the following. He says, oh, you don't think I'm a headliner? How about you ask the laugh factories around the country? The Funny Bones. He specifically refers to those two clubs, which I don't know how many laugh factories there are. I only know of the one in L.A., but maybe there's a bunch. But he's like, why did I headline all the Funny Bones around the country? Which is a hilarious, like, that's almost what Voss would use to slam him.
Right.
Go back to playing the funny bone. But it's the same response John has time and time again. Like, well, why you don't think I'm a headliner? Why do I play all these clubs? Voss has been doing comedy for, I don't know, 35, almost 40 years, I think. He knows everybody. He goes on every fucking podcast. Voss knows everyone in comedy. He headlines around the country. He's had probably close to 10 million openers.
So
and he had no idea that Stuttering John did stand-up comedy.
So if Stuttering John is always like, I headlined all the laugh factories, how many would you think there are?
Well, that's the thing is I always thought there was 2, both in California. But yeah, good question. He says, I headline all the laugh factories. I would think Minimum 35.
So the Laugh Factory locations are Chicago, Long Beach, San Diego, Las Vegas, and Reno.
Okay, I mean it's 3 more than I thought.
That's true. He makes it sound like they're nationwide.
The Laugh Factories around the country. You know what? I've headlined the Wilburs around the country. I've been to a theater, and it was a pretty big one. Fucking John, the Laugh Factories around the. That's funny. I never thought to look at. I just thought he kept saying it. There has to be way more than I realize. And sure enough, there's 5. That's like, I mean, again, like getting past in the Comedy Cellar is awesome. That's a big moment for a comic. But if you say I headline the Comedy Cellars around the country, you would think there's more than 2. But sure enough, there are only 2. By the way, I don't think John could perform at the Comedy Cellar. I don't believe he's past there. Maybe I'm wrong.
I headlined all the Improv's Laugh Factories.
Oh, he did it. Oh, hold on. I shit you not. Maybe subconsciously I ingested it because I did timestamp these clips. I forgot he actually said that on Twitter. I just knew that's what he always does. I apologize, John. I forgot about the Improvs.
That's true. There's more of those.
Yeah, okay, good. The Improvs I did forget. Maybe I mixed up that with Funny Bones. Go back a little bit.
Okay, so Stuttering John responds, middle, I headlined all the Improv's Laugh Factories and Punchline.
On Tuesdays. He called me a hack. I'm anything but a hack.
I love like the idea of like you call somebody a middle and they come back at you with facts. Here are places that I have headlined. You are wrong.
So then,
but he gets offended.
You think I'm a middler? Why don't you ask Magoobies about that, Rich?
Just listen to how excited Sam is.
Because Sam's never had an excuse to talk about this on the that's the interesting thing. I don't know why Sam doesn't just do more of it because you can tell how much he likes it, but he needed an excuse, and Rich Voss presented him with that excuse. Maybe it's something Sam doesn't want to do every day, but when someone walks in and says the name Stuttering John, Sam lights up. He's very excited. But yeah, I apologize. Funny Bones just sounded funnier.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that's why it got stuck in my mind. Yes, improv. He goes, you know what? Look up how many improvs there are.
On it. I don't know if those are all uniform though.
Well, he's claiming it is. He makes it seem like he has a contract with the Improv United States.
Because I know there's like an improv in Boston, but is that the one?
I don't think so. I don't think that's.
You're used to. I'm saying
that's. Yeah, you're right. I don't think that's in the same chain that we're thinking of.
Right, because there's improvs and then there's Improv Boston, there's Improv Broadway. Shout out to that terrible show. How many improv?
Maybe he played all of them.
We'll find out. Okay, I got locations. I'll finish this clip and I'll get a number.
Okay.
It's offended, that's why they call it the Dabbleverse.
Holy fuck!
Because somebody accused him of dabbling in stand-up, and he got offended. That they go, you dabble in stand-up, and he goes, dabble. I've been headlining. I don't dabble. I'm a stand-up.
Instead of just realizing that this is the way Voss teases every comic.
Yeah.
Voss is like this. If I tweeted something, Voss would have said, I don't get involved with middle drama. He would have said that to me. He would have said that to any comic he knows.
So
that's the crazy part that John doesn't understand is like that's how comedians bust balls. And when Artie, I mean the classic example is when Artie would have John on his show and made him choose between Jay Leno and Larry the Cable Guy. Artie was doing like classic ball busting the way they would on the Howard Stern show. And John replies, "Why don't you drink bleach and kill yourself, Artie?" It's like, Jesus, why are we there?
So there was 36 locations. It's now 25.
Okay, so let's go to 30. Let's go with 36. John has played 41 clubs around the country. That's pretty good.
Not terrible.
That's almost one in every state.
But they're mostly all in like 4 or 5.
Oh, damn. All right.
I'm pretty sure
I tried, Johnny.
The Laugh Factories are all in like the Southwest.
But I mean, how telling is that? The Voss, a guy that's been around, whatever you think of him, but the guy that's been around that long in comedy, that is in, like, the joke has become to call him a legend, ironically, but like he is a comedy fixture. He's been around forever. He's a staple of New York comedy.
Right.
And the idea that Voss had he's like, I didn't know the fucking guy did comedy. Voss was upgrading him in his mind.
Right.
In his mind, John didn't do comedy, and he was lumping him in with like feature acts.
But next we have classic Voss.
Okay.
Chad had no problem. He knew that because he's sitting back on what the fuck. So then this stuttering guy.
Who gets mad at Rich Voss for calling them a middle? That's what Voss
Stuttering
does.
John.
Yeah. Oh, I said, get me coffee. Most MCs on the road, when I'm leaving at the end, I go, do you have my number? They go, no. And I go, good, and walk away.
I mean, that's the Voss we got. That's what I tried to explain to Alba when we met him at Skankfest. Getting insulted by Voss is in a way getting insulted by Rickles. Like it's what you want from that interaction, you know?
Yeah.
But like when we went to Skankfest, my girlfriend was not familiar with him. We saw Voss and Bonnie do a show, and we walked out, and she was like, "Boy, that was really funny." And Voss and Bonnie were on the street, and she's like, "Oh, I want to tell them how good that show was." And she walks up to Rich Voss, and she goes, "Hey, like I didn't know much of your stand-up before, but that was amazing. You guys are so funny, blah, blah, blah." And he turns to her and goes, "What do you need?" Like annoyed with her. And I was laughing my ass off, but she was like, "What an asshole." I was like, "No, you got to understand. Like that is classic Voss."
I would much rather that than him to say thank you.
"Oh, thank you so much," and shake your hand. No, you don't want that.
No, I
What do you need?
Be disgusted with me, please.
Yeah. Ugh.
Ugh, get out of here.
But that's where John like isn't a comic because he doesn't relate to these guys in that way. He doesn't understand that kind of ball busting. And what's interesting is you'll hear if Carl or Shuley, God forbid, was talking to Rich Voss. Oh, let us clutch our chest and thank God it didn't happen this way. If Shuley said to Rich Voss, like, what kind of a comic doesn't understand that you're joking? John would do 45 minutes. Really, Shuley? Really? What kind of how about someone that's headlined improvs around the country? But he knows, like, he's not going to fuck with Norton because Norton's of a certain level, and that's one of the few guys John hasn't burned a bridge with. So he won't do 45 minutes on Norton. Now, I want to say if I'm calling the hypocrisy police, I might dial them and say, "Hey, Jim Norton criticized you, John. Are you going to go off on him the way you go off on everyone else?"
You gonna talk to him or what?
Yeah, because even Norton is mystified. Like, who would see Voss say that on Twitter and be like, "Oh, really, Rich?" Who would like answer him seriously? I've played 5 Laugh Factories.
Now, as we found out with a lot of the Dabbleverse, thin-skinned.
Yeah. John accuses a lot of people of being very thin-skinned, which is interesting because the consensus seems to be time and time again. And here's what I tried to get across when we were talking about the Legion of Skanks. Remember when they talked about Stuttering John? Because Stuttering John messaged Lewis demanding a Venmo transfer.
Very funny.
But the Legion of Skanks guys talked about him and were like, should we have Stuttering John on? And unanimously were like, nah, what would we even talk to him about? He's obsessed with Carl and Shuley and these guys. Like, he has a one-track mind, and he would come on demanding to talk about that. And, like, Jay would be interested. But even Jay, I think, would want to talk about it for 20 minutes and then go on to other things.
Yep.
They don't look at John, and I think rightfully so, as someone who can talk about anything else. Like, you'd be interested to talk to him about this stuff. And this is where John goes off on my guy, Carl, and Shuley and these people. I heard John saying this week, he's like, "Carl, I dare you to do a show alone once. Even try it once." And there were like a couple months where Carl was doing an emergency show on every Monday for like weeks, I think, but all by himself. I mean, like, he would read super chats from time to time, but like he was broadcasting. So does John. Like, he was broadcasting alone. So like John pretends not to know these things, and he's like, you could never broadcast alone. Like, he thinks he's superior to them. But John can't broadcast alone. What he can do is sit in front of a camera and go, Shuli's numbers are down. Fucking Kevin needs me on his show. He's crumbling without me. Silent Mike is an asshole. He just says these things over and over again. It's not something any other show, like outside of this world, would have any interest in talking to him about. So, John, again, I'll say, listen to that Legion of Skanks clip. Listen to this clip. This is what your peers, quote unquote, or who you view as your peers, this is what they think of you. Voss didn't know you were a fucking comic, and Norton thinks you're delusional. That's what people think of you out there because of what you've spun yourself into. When John left the Tonight Show, I don't think that would have been the case.
Right.
You know, could we have found ways to make fun of him? Absolutely. But like, would the average comic be like, oh, hey, Stuttering John from the Howard Stern Show. What's up, man? They'd have him on their podcast. It'd be fun to reminisce about the old days, talk about what he's up to now. That would easily happen 10 years ago. But John has both dranken and angered himself into this, like, he's not a human, he's a cartoon character that people have no interaction in dealing with. The only people that want to interact with John are people that throw him $2 in super chats and go, hey, your fucking son's got a dick. And he has to read it and get angry about it.
What?
Like, those are the people who enjoy interacting with John. Other than that, no one would ever want to engage with this person.
It's very funny that the guy who gets pissed off about saying that about his kid also said,
"You fucking cocksucker, bone-smoking, faggot, homo piece of shit."
I mean, just the other day, I heard him again. This is we're like a year into John's return almost, and I shit you not, 3 days ago, I heard him saying, I think Carl's wife is a beard. The beard on his face is not his only wife. I think he's gay. It's like, really? We're still doing this, John? Okay, John, he's gay. What's next? Is that bad? Like, where do we go from there? Let's say he's gay. Who gives a fuck? John, the amount of allegations against John that people have made, and his retort is that someone would rather lay with a man than a woman.
oh, yeah.
It's like, John, people say you're a deadbeat dad, that you're lazy, that you don't pay child support, and your comeback is, well, I think you prefer cocks to vagina.
You sit on wieners.
Very, very mature, John.
But yeah, thin-skinned.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah, sorry. So I wonder who's thin-skinned in this situation.
Hey, don't be a comic if you're that thin-skinned. What the fuck? I'm sick of, and Bonnie and I talk about it all the time. They're all a bunch of fucking babies.
Right.
What the fuck? Go work at Apple.
Right. So he's got multiple responses to this.
So multiple. He's putting up there. Then in 2001, 9/11.
Oh,
This
yeah.
is great. Hold on. Craig, have you heard this yet?
No.
You might be wondering, why is 9/11 being invoked?
Oh my God, are we getting a swordfish drop?
Sure, we never forget. But how could that possibly work its way into this discussion? This is how petty a man John is. Listen to this story. So just keep in mind all the facts here. Voss and John, sorry. Well, hold on a second. Voss and John are, Voss and, God damn it. I'm an asshole. This is Tony Hinchcliffe all over again. John and Zumach are going back and forth on Twitter.
Bum.
John says, or Voss says, hey, you guys are middle acts. Then John goes on his show and talks about this.
2001, 9/11.
Oh, yeah, I remember.
He was doing some fundraiser, but I think they were getting paid at like Trump Plaza or one of, and it was him, I think, Florentine and Modi.
Good for them.
So he threw me on it last minute. Or do you want to do it? So I canceled that week. I had a gig that was or wasn't going to do it because of 9/11, or I just got more money.
Let's be
instead of
honest. That's
yeah,
probably what
probably
happened.
Or you just didn't want to make it feel worse.
Yes.
Yeah, they already suffered through.
Yeah, this is one disaster. We don't need a larger one.
Right, we can't have
Wait a
another
second,
attack on our
because you
homeland.
might know this other podcast. So
Ooh.
I cancel it. He's bringing it up from 2001, and Voss
Like now, like 23
Yes,
years later.
Yes,
That's great.
he brought it up on his podcast.
That's great.
So, if you didn't fully grasp that, if you're thinking that can't be what I think it is, let me explain. Voss called John a middle act. Oh, the greatest insult anyone could imagine. Again, people go on every day and call John a deadbeat dad, and I've heard people call him a fucking rapist. And yet, a middle act is the worst thing John has ever been called. And John goes, "Oh yeah? Well, you canceled a gig in 2001." Which, by the way, who gives a fuck?
How do you remember that?
Yeah, how do you remember? But also, like, do you think that the nation would have been like, guys, good news. 9/11 Commission, who needs it? Rich Voss is back on stage. This Bin Laden guy, don't even look into him. Because laughter is back in America. Why? Like, this is what John does is he can't remember anything. It's like, hey, John, remember yesterday when you challenged Blind Mike to an IQ test? You said you had a 165 IQ and you said you were going to set it up and then he accepted and you're not doing it. Remember? I don't remember that. Oh, that's weird. Remember all these things that you claim and then people call you out on and you just don't do? No, I don't remember that. What I do remember is 2001. The worst atrocity that's ever hit this nation is Rich Voss canceling on me. John's 9/11, as we all know, when he was on air, as we broke down with the great Drew Lane, when he was on air, what he cared about that day was swordfish.
Right.
Days later is when the real tragedy struck. When Voss said, on a show that was already sold and had headliners on, like Florentine and Modi were already there, and the real atrocity was when Voss was like, "Hey guys, I can't make this one. Sorry, doing a gig down the street instead." Oh God.
Reverend Shitstain, powerful pooper, $2.
I know him.
Thin-skinned, thick-skulled, Skull.
Skull.
We got Murchison's Mouse, $5.
Hello, buddy.
Gearbox, forever, long live Hack Ride, love Blind Mike Project. Thanks for all the content, gang.
Thank you, buddy. Yes, Gearbox will always exist in our minds and our spirits.
Yeah, I think if we just promote that's happening tonight, we'll force him to have to do it.
Yeah, Gearbox tonight at 9, guys.
Gearbox tonight at 9.
Just try you don't Hack Ride. Don't do anything you don't want to do. Believe me, and you don't have to do it this week if you want. I'd say try it like half an hour and just talk about the show. People might be into that.
Yep.
Again, I don't think this is a show that really needs. Like, I don't think our audience is big enough to warrant an after show, really. But like, I'd say try it in smaller doses, maybe, and people might be more receptive.
As you see on the screen right now, it says Gearbox every Sunday at 9 p.m. Eastern.
There you go.
There we go. Paul Penix, I don't know how you pronounce that. $5. Craig, do chicks dig Lego or Play-Doh more? What say you? Hashtag Craighead.
Well,
Is that a
what say
reference?
you?
I'm gonna go with Legos, probably. No, that'd be boys, right?
But you would know.
Because I'm straight as hell, dude. I play with Legos.
Well, because you're a pervert.
No. That's not true.
All right. Well, what do we got?
WATP.
Oh yeah, so this is now WATP covered Voss and Bonnie years ago, and then I think did them again recently.
Yes, actually, like within
right?
the last month or two, I think.
Yeah. I don't know if Voss liked it at the time, but now he doesn't mind Carl so much because of the recent review that Carl did.
I am not coming on. I'm just not getting involved in this drama. I made one tweet and I even tweeted to John, "Hey, I was joking, loosen up." Then he writes back to me, "LOL, I just saw this." Right?
Oh, that was the greatest, by the way. The greatest is, so Voss tweets like, "Hey, you guys are middle acts." John goes on his show. It just happened to be timed where like John was about to do a show. He goes off on Voss. It says what a hack he is, and then tells that 9/11 story, how Voss, the nation had to heal after what Voss did to New York on 9/11. And he like just rips him to shit. And then he goes on Twitter and sees that response from Voss where he's like, hey man, I'm fucking around. And then you get embarrassed John where he's like, oh, I didn't realize that. I'm sorry. After he just called you a piece of shit. That's like how quick, like anyone that John says he loves, just know you're an insult away. Even if I truly believe his kids that he loves so much, if his kids went online today and were like, hey, I don't think my dad's a real comic, he'd be like, well, you're not a real girl. So there. Or a real boy, whatever he is. I don't know.
That's exactly the point.
Yeah. But John would turn on anyway. If you say he's not a real comic or his podcast sucks, he'll turn on you immediately. And I don't just mean like have fun, like insult you on his show, or there will be a lifelong vendetta unless you kiss the ring.
Right.
To me, LOL, I just saw this right after he went on his podcast and
Yeah.
Now there's these other guys that do a podcast,
Okay.
and I'm sure they trash me and Bonnie. I think I heard they trash. It's called Who Is This Podcast?
Who are these podcasts?
Yeah.
Carl. Yeah, he's very funny.
Yeah,
They're deep in the dabble.
Yeah, he's funny.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I'm sure.
Why is it? Because I have a podcast that's also a sentence. Why are you laughing?
Mhm.
And Vinny Paulino always calls it, why are they laughing? And what is it about? And I hear that with Carl's podcast all the time. It's 4 words. It's not that difficult.
Well, I think Vinny says that because I'm almost positive, if I recall, that was Stuttering John's big insult towards the show. Wasn't it?
Towards us?
Didn't he say that in passing when he was talking about it like 6 months after the video was posted?
Boy, Vinny goes real deep if he caught that, because I have no idea what you're talking about. But
I think. I could also be thinking of, oh no, you know what? I'm thinking of Why Do They Podcast? Never mind.
I had a feeling that's what you were
Yeah.
thinking of. Yeah.
Yeah, never mind.
But anyway, my that is my point. Is people, for some reason people can never get those names right. And also that it's funny you bring that up because I don't know why John thinks that's an insult. Why Do They Podcast is actually a better title. Like why Who Are These Podcasts has stuck, but Why Do They Podcast as a sentence makes more sense.
That
And
should be-
John plays it like it's this big insult.
it should be called Who Are These Podcasts? The description, Why Do They Podcast?
Yes, yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a John's like, gotcha. It's like, no, that actually makes sense.
He did the whole show or all of it on there, and the guy is good. I said this on my
You're
podcast.
talking
Yeah.
about, yeah.
Carl, he's funny.
The guy, is he a comic?
I don't know if he does stand up. He is a funny broadcaster, though.
Well, they had
Hey, John.
Comic-Con.
Seems like Voss looks at you and Carl as the same level of comic.
And Carl-
Hey, John, you've been in the business for 40 fucking years. If you showed Rich Voss a picture of Stuttering John and a picture of Carl and said one of these men are comics, stand-up comedians, it would have been a complete toss-up. John, just think about that. Mull that over when you're downing your next Michelob Ultra in a matter of seconds.
there is a chance.
Consider that.
There is a chance that Carl doing his first set of stand-up comedy would be much, much funnier than John.
Oh, well, Carl's done. I don't know if you necessarily call it stand-up, but like he hosts his live shows and shit, and I'm certain it's better than whatever John misrepresents as comedy at his fucking shows.
He had a Comic-Con, and they did the whole thing. And a lot of people don't like this Stuttering John for some reason, right?
Mhm.
And he really reviewed it. Like, I was really pro this guy because he was saying nice things about me.
You like it when people are
Sure.
Yeah.
He was saying nice things. But I think someone told me he trashed me and Bonnie, said just a bickering old couple doing a pie. And I'm sure that's,
I mean, not an untrue
no.
description.
Well, hey, boss, we think you're pretty terrific as well, buddy.
Come on, anytime.
It's just funny to me that like John, for all of his fucking gloating that he does about how much respect he has in the business and how he has this resume. That's another thing he always goes to is like, I've got the best resume in the Dabbleverse. Nobody can which I don't know why that matters, by the way. It's never been part of the argument. No one's ever been like, hey, I've been on the Howard Stern show. It's like, no, we know you have, and we haven't. That's fine. Good for you, buddy. But again, if you showed a veteran comedian, like one of the legends, the legendary Comedy Cellar table, one of the main guys, like an institution at the Comedy Cellar, you show him a picture of Carl and Stuttering John and say, one of these guys are comics, the other isn't. John's like, Voss is like, I don't know, flip a coin. Could be either of them.
Next we have Sam is in.
Oh, I mean, you've heard it already, but Sam is clearly, I mean, to the point where he's letting everyone in the room know how the Dabbleverse got his name. Like Voss didn't even know that, and he's the one that presented this subject.
What started the whole thing with John though? Like, why don't people like him? Like, what? I don't know what started the whole thing.
I think I don't exactly know. Like,
no, of course you don't, Sam.
I don't know.
This is Sam on a first date, and like, you know, Star Wars comes up, and you don't want to look like a complete nerd,
right?
And you're like, actually, I mean, I've heard that's not exactly what George Lucas is going for, so I don't know if you're totally right on that, but I don't really know a lot about the subject, you know, so you might be right. I have no idea. But basically what I've heard is that
the guy's big in the Chad Zumach catalytic converter drama. Like,
what was that?
And jump out.
What was that? He stole a catalytic converter?
It was when he pretended that Anthony punched him in the face, and he was doing a bit or something.
Like, geez, I don't exactly know, but here's everything that happened.
Here's the exact scenario.
This was yesterday. You just heard about it? No. Well over a year ago.
Dave Sarah in the comments says catalytic converter.
I like that.
I liked it too.
But this is like when I'm around like Alba's friends who maybe I'm not comfortable giving all my
giving yourself to
views on things around.
Yeah.
So they'll let's say they bring up like a canceled comedian, you know, like they're like, oh, that's Shane Gillis. I've heard he's racist, right? And I have to be like,
yeah.
No, I've actually heard that completely was blown. I've heard, and listen, I don't really know what I'm talking about. I've heard that was totally taken out of context, and the media really blew that up, and SNL actually kind of fucked up by firing him. I didn't do like an entire episode about it or anything. This is just what I've heard.
I don't have his phone number. I don't kind of know him.
I like Sam pretend he's like, Chad had some. This is just, I don't know. Chad had something. Anyway, yeah, he had he was stealing catalytic converters, and they said "Kumia country," and they punched him in the face and ran away.
Anthony's fan, he said, punched him in the face, but then it turned out he was not telling the truth, but he said he was doing a bit.
Motherfucker.
But Anthony accused him of trying to steal catalytic converters. It was a whole thing. So
what?
So
where would he get the wrenches from?
I don't know.
And so he's like, but again, I don't know if that's even true because I don't follow this stuff.
Now we're at our last clip.
You know, Mike, Louis C.K. is really guilty, right? And I have to be like, I've heard there are two sides to every story, actually. It's weird. I could be totally wrong on this.
Some people think he's guilty. Other people said that he asked for permission every single time.
It's funny you bring up Louis C.K. being guilty because I've never thought about it once, but I actually have a full defense prepared if you'd like to get into it. This is our last clip?
Yeah, fun shot at Anthony.
Oh, there's no reason for this. But hey, John, this is a guy Voss has known for 25 fucking years. Just take that into consideration. Go with the flow once in a while.
Anthony move yet? Did he?
I don't know if he's full time. He was back doing something.
Where do you go to? Obscurity?
No, he's in one of the Carolinas.
Norton answering, no, he didn't. But yeah, like that's a guy. He's in Anthony's old house, basically.
Yeah.
He's known Anthony forever, and that's the type of joke he makes. Just fucking go with the flow once in a while. Hey, did Shuley say something nasty about you? Did Carl say something over the line? We can argue that all day. I probably won't agree with John on that, but we can argue it. But once in a while, go with the fucking flow. Like you're embarrassing yourself. That's Voss, and Voss has no fucking dog in this race, and just made a little joke. Like honestly, I think John. I think this is the approach that Chad took. It's amazing that Chad is the grown up in this situation. Because I think the approach that Chad took was like he's probably kind of honored on some level that Voss knew who he was and was interacting with him. You know,
Right. He's probably good. This goes a long way for my credibility.
Like I could criticize Tony Hinchcliffe all day, but like he comments on my Instagram and I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. You know, he thinks I'm insane, I guess, but that's something.
I'll be able to eat this month.
Voss has nothing. Like he can't for a moment think like, oh, this guy's busting my balls. I'll give it back. You know, it has to be someone above him. Like Howard is allowed to bust his balls. You know, I'm sure Jay Leno is allowed, but it has to be someone he's subservient to. If he views you as lesser than, which I don't know why he views Voss as lesser than when Voss is clearly light years more successful in stand-up.
Right.
Oh, really? Was he ever the announcer for the Tonight Show? No, that's not his job. He has a different job, and it's stand-up comedy.
Dennis in East Boston, $2. Great Curb Why You Laughing episode, Mike.
Well, thank you, buddy.
I enjoyed that.
We got another good one coming out this week. I think. Go to blindmike.net. Check it if you want early access to those episodes. Become a Patreon or YouTube member. Whichever.